Hey, thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be unboxing the ELF 3D printer. It is a corexy style printer and it is from Creativity 3D Printing. And the version we have here is the short version with the Triton extruder. So let's open up and see what we have in here. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Creativity 3D Printers for their assistance in getting this printer to me. So, because of the size of the box, it's not feasible for me to kind of flip it up and show you what you're going to see when you first take out this first layer of foam. But I have taken a picture of this with my phone and I will add it into the video so you kind of see a top-down view of what you get when you initially open everything. And I can already tell you space is going to be an issue here, so this is going to be a fun little challenge. The first thing we have is the instruction manual. Instruction manual has a welcome page, standard warnings, safety guidelines. And then we start going into the parts list of all the parts and pieces in here. And then it starts going into the assembly. So it's going to tell you all the parts that you're going to need here in the first half of the page. Then on the second half of the page is kind of a diagram on how to assemble it. If you've assembled boxed furniture from a well-known Swedish company, these kinds of diagrams should be familiar to you. If not, there are some YouTube videos online that you can view, and I also plan on doing my own assembly video. Set that here. We do have one other warning in here. This is for the power supply. This is a dual voltage power supply. It can handle both the European standard, which is 230 volts, and the US standard, which is 115 volts. So we're going to want to make sure that we have that selector on the correct setting for our country before we actually power up the printer. Okay. So before I can take out any of the big pieces, I have to get some of the little pieces out so I can get some of the packaging and stuff removed first. So this first piece here, this is that Triton extruder. I've got a couple screws down here on the bottom I don't want to lose. But this is one of the extruders that uses the dual gear. So it uses a big gear and a little gear to get more mechanical advantage on that filament to actually get it to go through the extruder and out the nozzle. Put that back in there. And I want to seal it up. I don't want to lose those screws. Set that over here. We have two packages of, looks like bearings. If I were to hazard a guess, these would be the bearings that support the heat bed as it moves up and down. Because of the long down tube, it's going to resist the weight of the bed trying to make it off level. Okay. This printer does have dual Z-axis lead screws, which will help to support that print bed and keep it level. So here we have quite a selection of tools. So I can see we have our power cable here. We have a wrench. We have some binder clips. That'll be for holding the bed on later. We've got our USB interconnect cable. We've got a smaller wrench. We've got quite a selection of different size Allen wrenches. And I don't know if you can tell from that distance, the Allen wrenches they provide have a nice long distance to them so they can get into some of these tighter spots. They also have this little ball end on them, so if you can't go straight into the Allen wrench, you have to come in at an angle. This little relief in here makes that easier. So, nice design. Looks like we might also have a glue stick to help with adhesion. And a few other parts that I am not totally familiar with. So we'll have a better idea of exactly what all's in here when we go to do the assembly. So we have a nice vacuum packed roll of PLA. This is white PLA. The spool does have cutouts on the side so we can tell how much we have. So as we're printing out something, we can see when we're getting low and consider when we might need to change. So, nice little feature. This is actually a nice amount of sample PLA. My only other printer only came with, I think, about a 10-meter piece. It was very small. It wasn't even on a spool like this. It was just a coiled up bundle. So, very nice addition. And I think we're ready to take out this first packing piece. And here is our first big piece. Couple of packing pieces in here. So this piece is actually upside down right now. Here is our extruder and our hot end. One of these is the this one here is the Y motor, so this one should be the X motor. And these serpentine belts that you see all throughout here are what signify this being a corexy. In a corexy style printer, the print head moves in both the X and the Y direction, and the heat bed stays stationary. The heat bed only moves up or down. Cartesian printers are a little bit different. They do the extruder moves in the X direction, Y direction is accomplished by the actual print bed moving forward and backwards. When we get into the assembly and the use of the printer, we'll go into some of those differences a little bit more because they can be significant. This is going to be my first experience with a corexy. And one other thing I wanted to point out was you'll notice the silver parts here on the two sides, and another one hiding under here. So this printer uses linear rails. The linear rails should give us much smoother, more consistent movement than some of the other styles. So next, we have the hotbed. So this one has got the glass printing surface. Glass printing surface is covered in plastic to protect it during shipping and to also keep all of our greasy little fingerprints off of it while we're assembling it. So that's It's a nice touch. The binder clips that we saw in here before are used to hold this to the aluminum hot bed. So this is the part that's going to actually heat up through the element that is underneath this insulation pad. The insulating pad helps it to heat up faster and retain heat better and retain a more consistent heat. So we have a fairly decent cord and a 4-socket plug. Just going to screw in and secure down. So nice design, I'm liking this so far. And we can see from here, this is a 24 volt, 240 watt heat plate. So we should be able to get some pretty decent temperatures for printing like ABS, maybe some of the nylons or high impact polystyrene, or some of those materials that require some higher temperatures. So we'll be able to play around with those. And like I said, I am running out of room. Okay. This is where the heat bed was, so it was nice and secure, couldn't move around during shipping, so very nicely thought out packaging by whoever did this. One or more of the creative employees at Creativity 3D Printing. And now we get to the hard part. So this is the main base of the printer. We have our power switch over here, our plug goes in over here. We've got some cables we're going to need to connect. We've got some cables on this side to connect. And it looks like we have some cables in front to connect. So our Z-axis will mount here, and this frame will eventually end up being here at the top. So let me see if I can just move this out of the way just a little bit to get the rest of these pieces out. So here we have two pieces in protective coverings. And if we slide one out a little bit, we have threaded rods. So these are going to be our Z-axis lift rods, I believe. And here we have 4 smooth rods, nicely wrapped, kept together. These should be the 2 rods that go on either side of the Z-axis to support the bed as it moves up and down. These are being used in combination with these to provide support. So we have some additional panels. I believe these are part of the heat bed. We'll find out as we do the assembly. Trying to be careful where I put anything, don't want to damage anything. Slide this down just a little bit, give me a little bit of room in here. Move these around. I'll be careful we don't do any damage to those Z-rods. And here we have the aluminum extrusion. See if I can slide one of these out real quick. You can see a nice end profile here. These are nice, strong rods. They're going to make a very strong, firm frame. The big ones will go in the corners. And then we have some smaller ones that will be used as cross bracings between these to help stabilize the structure. This should be a nice, strong, secure printer when we have everything all assembled. last but not least, we have all of the screws and little accessories that are needed to put everything together. So we've got the couplers between the Z-axis motors and the Z-rods to allow for a little bit of flex. We've got bags of screws, limit switches, the springs for the bed, the anti-backlash nuts that hold the Z-bed on, so if you start doing Z-hopping and stuff, you don't get any play. The backlash nuts prevent that. So all in all, a nice collection of parts here. And let me see if I can move this box out of the way, because that should be everything. That is everything. So move that out of the way. Again, apologize about the space issue. This was definitely a little bit bigger than I had envisioned, but I'm definitely looking forward to this. So here on the front we've got a power switch, we have our LCD display, we have a nice little ELF logo and their little creative design. It looks like a nice machine. So I do hope you will come back and join me for the assembly video, the overview on how to use it, and our first print. And we'll see what kind of quality we get out of this out of the box, and then maybe even cover some of the fine-tuning steps. So I appreciate you watching. If you want to see some of the other videos when I do post them, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the little bell icon, and you'll get notified when those are posted. Just wanted to point out a quick little addition. Here is a close-up of that warning about the voltage for the power supply. I've turned the base around so we can see that selector in there. And right now, if we look at it, we can see it's set to 230 volts, which is what they use when they test these units at the factory in China. So if we just slide a little finger in there, switch it over, you can now see it's been switched over and now says it's 115 volts. So it is now the right setting for setting this up in the United States. So wanted to make sure I took care of that first thing, because that's one of the steps that can be so easily overlooked. And if the setting's wrong when you first apply power, you can cause some damage to the machine. Or if you're lucky, the machine just won't come on or operate properly. But to make sure that you don't encounter any of those situations, just go ahead and double check this first. Okay? That's my safety tip of the day. Thank you.